Hey everyone, I thought it would be fun to start this series just to give us all, and myself included, some color inspiration. I know a lot of you love color as much as I do, and I know a lot of you are on the lookout for inspiring color stories. I know I am. So my goal with this series, and I'm going to try and do this every month when the month begins. Hopefully I can keep up with it. Not making any promises, but that is the goal. Oh, list to all the supplies with links, including that gorgeous water dish, will be below in the info section. So the goal of the series is basically to give you inspiration, and kind of also for myself, I tend to obsess a lot about picking the perfect color palette, but I have found that keeping a good reference of color stories that really sink to me saves me a lot of time. So instead of starting every painting session with swatching and testing and mixing, which, you know, is fun, but sometimes it can get excessive, and especially if your time is short, then you want to actually be painting. And this is why I recommend, and I do this myself, to have a reference book. Now, I am going to draw inspiration from a color story that I've created before, and I love. Those colors are really speaking to me. That painting that you see at the top of the screen was also the inspiration. And basically what I'm going to do in this video and the next ones like this is just give you a good, in my opinion, of course, color story. And if you have the same watercolors that I have and you like this color story, then you can, of course, also document it and use it and paint with it. The plan is also to use it for painting in the coming month, or at least, a week or a couple of weeks. And if you don't like it, then you can try and tweak it. Maybe the pink is not to your liking and you can try a different pink, or maybe you don't have exactly the brands that I'm using. So find something similar in your stash. But this is basically to give you inspiration, maybe a bit focus, and just find a great color story. I don't know why this is so difficult for me, but it is, to find a color combination that really works. So we're going to have 5 watercolors, and then at the end I'm going to add a few Neocolor 1 wax pastels to complement my color story. Starting from the left, we have Buff Titanium. I'm using Daniel Smith. I have found, for me, this is a pretty standard color, and I like the Daniel Smith version, but every brand makes this color, Buff Titanium, and you don't need to have the Daniel Smith version. The second color is quite specific in my opinion. I've mentioned it a gazillion times. This is the Lukas Naples Yellow Red, which you can see is basically an orange, and it is semi-opaque, and I just love it. I do use it pure in my painting sometimes, but what I have found is that it just creates the most gorgeous corals when I mix it with my very bright fluorescent pinks. So the pink, of course, is, let's say it all together, Holbein Bright Rose. It's my favorite pink. It's my ride or die pink. I can't get over this pink. I love it as it is. I love it in mixtures. I love it to create corals. It's just perfection. It is fugitive, so forgive me for that. Then we have Daniel Smith Moon Glow, which is my dark and granulating color. And then we have Van Gogh's Dusk Yellow. Rembrandt also has a version of Dusk Yellow. I might pick up that one. I'm not even sure. I'll check the pigments to see if there's a difference. But Van Gogh is the more affordable line from Royal Talents, and then Rembrandt is their kind of traditional artist grade range or selection. So we'll see. The dusk colors come in both of these ranges. I know for the dusk pink, which is another favorite of mine, they do use different pigments in the Van Gogh version than the Rembrandt version. I find them both beautiful without a huge difference. So if you're on a very tight budget, I started with a Van Gogh and then I just switched to a big tube of Rembrandt because they come in large tubes. But they're very, very comparable. And I'm not sure about the dusk yellow. We'll see. I'm planning to go to the art store soon. Now, I'm using my stamp set, which was available for pre-order. Currently, I don't have any plans on restock. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter if you want to be notified on anything exciting that happens here. The bad stamping is not the stamp's fault, it's the stamper. And also it's kind of hard to stamp in a sketchbook, especially when it's a small one and I was really close to the spine. So it was kind of hard to get it. But the stamps stamp perfectly, I assure you. It's user error here. So this is my color scheme for the month. And now I'm going to do some mixes. What I want to mention about this, while we appreciate the beauty of this water dish from Jackson's, thank you, Janet. If I'm not mistaken, it was Janet, one of my lovely viewers that commented, just like casually commented, that she picked up this lovely dish from Jackson's, which I had to go check and see. And maybe, you know, I thought, okay, can I upgrade my pickle jar that I'm currently using? So this is the upgrade. Okay, so I'm going to do some mixes. I always find the most interesting mixes are those of the complementary colors. In this case here, you can see I'm mixing a purple and, you know, orangey yellow. And the neutrals that I get here are really lovely. What did I want to say? Okay, so these are my colors. I usually paint florals and I love pink. And so this is a color scheme that is very useful for me, and the painting that I drew inspiration from, that you could see some close-ups in the beginning of the video, is, you know, one of my many florals in that style. And I usually work in the same way. I kind of have a routine, and this color scheme really kind of satisfies almost all of my color needs. I do tend to come at the end, or like the last 10% of the painting, and I may then add a bunch of other colors, but they will usually be just like accents and kind of those bright spots, and they won't be really included in, you know, the base, the first 80 or 90% of the painting. So 5 colors is really enough for me if they are the right colors. Usually I paint the florals themselves with a mixture of pink and a yellow, and then I can sometimes add a little bit of white or something like buff titanium to just get a bit more of that opacity, and maybe mute the colors just slightly, not too much, like get a little bit of a pastel look. And then I like to add some darker granulating colors and a little bit of green for the background of the florals, just to give kind of that idea of foliage. Although for the most part, I don't really paint leaves. I have like brush strokes or just like patterns, that sort of thing. So this color scheme really serves my purposes. But, you know, I hope you will draw inspiration and, you know, pick a color story that works for you. And now for another complementary mix, you can see my pink mixed with a dusk yellow, which I don't know why it's called dusk yellow. I think it's a green, but you can see that it also gives me really, really lovely muted colors. I don't know if they completely neutralize each other, these two, but the mixes are really lovely. And this is why I enjoy painting with complementary colors, A, and B, with colors that separate and granulate, because the mixtures and especially the neutrals are always really, really interesting. And that is one of those things that I really find lacking with neutrals straight from the tube. Even if they are granulating, then you'll usually have like the base color that is gray and then a gray granulation. But if you use these like separating colors, then, you know, you can see like a blue granulation or brown granulation. Or if you mix something with like cobalt teal, for example, I love mixing cobalt teal with something like vermilion or that sort of like orangey red, then you'll always get like these really interesting neutrals that have a little bit of that turquoise granulation. Or if you mix something like cobalt violet, there's also granulating with a yellow, like Naples yellow, you'll get these fun muted colors, like a beigey warm color that will have the purple granulation. So that to me is just one of the many reasons, but it's the main reason of mixing my own neutrals, just because you get like so much more interesting results than if you just use a neutral out of a tube. I almost always paint with mixed media. I use mostly lately in the last months, it's the Neocolor 1, which are wax pastels that are water resistant. I love the resist. And I would also use pencils, but to keep things kind of simple, I just swatched a few colors to inspire you and colors that I feel really, really complement my watercolor selection. And I'll tell you what they are. So the first one, that turquoise, is turquoise blue. But actually, after taking a closer look, I decided I really prefer the light blue, which I added a bit later. So what you see me swatching now is turquoise blue, but I think the light blue from Caran d'Ache Neocolor 1, I think that color works just a little bit better with my color scheme. Then we have a color called gold, which I would say is not gold. It's like a green gold. It's quite green and it's just beautiful. It's like a really earthy tone, and I usually use that one or the color ochre from the set that you see there on the screen to create some line work around my florals. I really like those kind of earthy, yellowish, greenish tones. Those really speak to me. So the color gold is lovely. You can see it's completely green. I don't know what they were thinking. And then I usually like to add a pop of yellow in the center of my florals. And sometimes I use pastels for that. Sometimes I use watercolor like quinacridone gold or Nicolazo yellow. Sometimes I use both. And in this case, I tried to go with the bright yellow that comes in the set of the Neocolor 1, but I decided I prefer the softer Sahara yellow from the Neocolor 1s, which I just bought at open stock. It's not in the set. It's basically the wax pastel version of Naples yellow. So this like soft, buttery yellow that I just feel it worked better with my other warm tones here, the buff titanium and the Naples yellow red. And here you can see these colors in action in my little painting. It's not so little, but just to give you an idea. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think about this series, and I would love to see what you create with these colors. Tag me on Instagram. Have a lovely day. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.